Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the podcast. Another great guest today, Mike Meyer. He was a former client of ours and has an amazing story. Tune in to see how he found an idea, built a business, and then had a successful exit. All that and more, so let's dive in.
Transact Capital presents Banking on Your Business with Jacob Robertson.
Enjoyed doing some research and reading about the company that you built and really how you took that idea and made something really successful out of it. So excited to dive into that and really pick your brain from that point of view. But to begin with, just want to do an initial introduction, let you introduce yourself and connect with the audience. So real quick.
So Mike Meyer, my company was NetSearch Digital Marketing. I say was because I'm now retired, happily retired.
Congratulations. Yes.
Thank you. That's the dream, right?
Yes.
And maybe we'll talk a little bit more about that, in a few minutes or so. So my initial business career was in direct mail marketing. I was the owner, eventually became one of the owners of Valpak Coupons as a franchise, direct mail advertising, and Reach Magazine here in Richmond. Got to know Patrick in my Valpak days, where he did some sales training with us. This was before he was with Transact Capital.
Oh yes,
but was always impressed with Patrick. So fast forward, my partners and I eventually bought out our senior partner in 2003. I started with Valpak in 1982, I think it was.
Okay.
So gradually bought some of ownership into that and eventually became the majority owner in 2003. And my job at that point was to lead us into the future. We weren't really sure what that future was going to be, but we had some very specific economic goals that we wanted to achieve with our company, which at that point was just direct mail advertising. And it became apparent to me that we weren't going to be able to hit those economic goals if we just stayed within the mailbox. So I started looking outside of direct mail advertising, wanted to stay in marketing and advertising to see what we could do to supplement. And at first I really thought it was just going to be a side business, something to add to or bolt on to Valpak and Reach Magazine. I noticed my salespeople at that time that I was managing, and also my wife. When I was working with my salespeople and I was saying, okay, it's time for prospecting, I was grabbing a telephone book. Again, this was in 2004 or 5-ish, and I'd grab a telephone book to look up prospects, and they were going on this thing called the internet.
Right.
I really didn't know that much about it. I mean, I'd used the internet some, and the same thing I noticed at home. My wife was more and more using the internet to research things. So that kind of intrigued me, and started to read a lot more about internet and internet advertising. And I saw national trends. It was pretty clear that nationally more dollars were flowing away from traditional media, radio, television, outdoor, including direct mail, into internet advertising, as it was called then. And a kind of a light bulb went off. And I said, at Valpak, we specialize in helping local businesses get leads, grow their businesses through leads. It's very targeted, measurable advertising. And the more I understood about internet advertising, which eventually became digital marketing, I said, well, this is kind of similar. It's really targeted, measurable advertising. Internet advertising was back then, still is today, but it's just a different method. It's using this online as opposed to direct mail. And when I saw the national trends, I said, wow, local businesses are definitely going to want a piece of this pie. So this should be something that we should be able to slide right into. We can talk the talk on targeted, measurable advertising, and we just need to learn about how this whole internet thing works. So
Right.
The light bulb went off, and I said, all right, time to start NetSearch. To kind of just fast forward, we still stumbled along for a few years and trying to find our niche. The answer initially when somebody said, can you help me? It was yes, no matter what it was.
Yeah.
Initially, what I decided, hey, we need a focus. And where we really took off is when we start to focus on the franchise industry and working with franchisors and then ultimately franchisees to help them get leads from the internet. A lot of service businesses, and the reason that became so great is once we got successful for a franchisee or two, or with a franchisor, the word spread really quickly, and we could really grow a business, dramatically that way.
And what were the advantages, from a financial point of view, from a revenue point of view, and then from a daily operation point of view? What were the advantages of focusing on a niche, and when do you recommend business owners, make that transition from get away from grabbing everything to just hyper focus on one thing?
Sure, that's a really good question. Let me say, it's tough as a business owner when you're trying to grow a business to say no.
Right.
And so that was one of the most difficult things is for me to learn to say no to certain projects and opportunity that as our business started to mature and we narrowed our focus to the franchise industry, and more specifically, it was going to be delivering leads for franchisors and franchisees. So our mission, and this is how we kind of helped to hone our focus, our mission became to simplify digital marketing and to deliver leads. And so we would go back and ask ourselves when opportunities were presented to us, does that kind of fit our mission statement? Mm-hmm. Example, people would come to us all the time and talk to us about, I need help with social media. And we had the capability to do social media. We did it for ourselves, but it really didn't fit our mission. It wasn't, at least at that point, something that was very good at delivering leads for people. And so we stayed away from that, and we focused again on building websites, but websites were a means to the end of doing search engine optimization, which we were really good at, and also pay-per-click advertising, which we became really good at. And because those were things that could drive that mission statement of delivering leads.
Yeah. I love that mission statement, and it's super simple, but it's super impactful. And it's, I would be curious, how long did it take to get to that realization and to get that hyper focused mission statement?
So we started NetSearch in 2006. It was probably 5 years.
Okay.
I would say until we finally, combination of nailed our 4 or 5 years before we kind of settled on the franchise industry. We started to build the team around us of like-minded people with strong skill sets, the skill sets that we needed, and start to build a winning culture and be able to focus on that mission statement. And it was fun to see and very rewarding to see young people come into our business many times at an introductory level, mm-hmm. grow with the business as you gave them opportunity, and then they seize that opportunity and grow as people and leaders and really key contributors to our business. And so I really likened it very much to a parent with your kids. I've got 2 daughters; they're adults now, but you want to kind of set the boundaries. You need to let them make some mistakes. Your kids, I think, your job's not to be their best friend. Your job's to be somebody that helps them on that road to success. But they've got to ultimately do it themselves, with some guidance and some teaching and education. And digital marketing was such a young person's game. We grew eventually to have over 50 employees. I would say 40 plus of them were under the age of 30. Right. And for many of these people, it was NetSearch was their first or second, but probably their first job coming out of school. Mm-hmm. So it was fun to be surrounded by young people. I felt like I had a lot larger family. It was frustrating at times because millennials taught me they thought a little bit differently than I did. They helped me change my thinking in some different areas and open my eyes to certain things. They helped me grow, mm-hmm. and I think maybe a little bit I helped them grow in some areas as well.
Yes, yeah, well, that's great. And so as you're growing, you talk us through the transition of when did you start thinking about an exit? When
Sure.
When did you start positioning yourself, and What were the thoughts? What were the emotions at that point in time?
It's funny because you work your whole life, at least the majority of your life, for me at least, not really thinking that much about retirement or the end. I'm a big fan of Zig Ziglar, who
Okay.
was a
Yep.
renowned national sales trainer, and I went to see him at a sales rally in the early mid '80s. But what really stuck, I remember specifically seeing him, and what I took back from at least this one particular time that I heard him speak was, and I'm kind of paraphrasing, but he said he lived by the motto that if you help enough other people get what they want out of life, if you help enough other people get what they want out of life, you'll get everything that you want out of life. And that's really how I lived my business life. I just felt that if I made other businesses or helped other business owners become successful in their business, eventually I would find success as well. And so finally, I would say in 2012 or 13, we really started rolling big time in the franchise industry. We started to gather a lot of momentum, a lot of reputation, and with that, we really started to have some big growth. The last 5 years, the 5 years prior to me selling, we were growing at a clip of over 30% a year. So
Right. Wow. Yeah.
big growth, and we were Inc. 5000 fastest growing company, I think, for 6 out of the last 7 years that that I own NetSearch. So we really started to stack together some big growth in terms of percentages, but also in terms of dollars. And so when I got to, probably 2020, I felt like that the business was now large enough and was throwing off enough profit that it's probably about time for me to look to see how much this might be worth. Let's get something, a tangible understanding of what I have here, and then I can make a decision. Is it time for me to move on, or do I want to stay and keep growing this thing? That's when I decided to contact, a mergers and acquisition company. But what I got from Transact was much more than evaluation. I mean, they supported it with a lot of industry data. They also supported their valuation too with different things that they had done, and so I start to feel very comfortable with them and their approach, to this whole thing. But then I had a decision to make, and that was they threw a number at me. Basically, here's what the range of your multiple is going to be of EBITDA, and they said, what do you think? And I said, well, I'm not sure. And they said, well, you really need to. They tried to fast forward, and they said, let's say we would go forward with this, and you need to make sure that you're going to be comfortable with the process, but also comfortable with where you're going to end up. So they tried to put me into, the place where I still wasn't sure I was going to go yet, but that my business was sold, and they said, listen, look at this from a very conservative standpoint. We've given you a range. Let's take the bottom end of the EBITDA and what your EBITDA is right now, and you need to decide if you're going to be comfortable with that, and also be comfortable not, owning your business anymore.
Right.
So that's where it started to get real.
Okay.
And
right.
So what I did then, I'll just continue a little bit in the process, is I decided, you know what, I like these guys at Transact, but I think this is a big decision, and I think what I need to do is just do some more research, get some other opinions, try to find some M&A firms that specialize in the digital marketing industry, and to see what they had to say. And so I did that. I took a few months and did that. kept in touch with Patrick and Steve, and let them know what was going on. And long story short is, two things happened in that probably 3 or 4 month journey. One, I became, I think I got 2 or 3 more, at least 3 more evaluations. People that specialize in selling digital marketing companies or assisting with the sale of digital marketing companies, and got to view their approaches. What I found is I kept going back to Transact, how much more comfortable I was with their approach, the whole process. So the information that I was getting, just from a process standpoint and from a people standpoint, made me really become more and more comfortable with Transact. I didn't like near as much what I saw out there.
Well, first, we definitely appreciate that, and that's our goal. Our goal is to partner above and beyond, and really, go beyond just a transaction to more of a, like you said, a partnership and more of a side by side educational approach, and so that makes us happy, and we're very, very appreciative of that feedback. So. And so, you talked a lot about your team and how much you had built that and how valuable that team was. At what point in the process did you bring them in to the fold and let them know, hey, these are my plans and this is what I'm doing? And how was that? How did you handle that interaction?
Yeah, so that was something that became kind of tricky. So I signed on with Transact. And now it's real. Now I'm moving forward with this. I was very comfortable with the direction that we were headed and the path that they had put in front of me of what was going to happen. I felt like I was really prepared, and I felt like finally I could say, okay, even at the low end of the EBITDA figure of the multiple figure, I could be happy with that.
Yes,
and would have no regrets. And so all this time though, I'm still having my day job, and I have not let anybody other than my wife know what's going on. And so, again, Steve and Patrick did a really good job of preparing me to say, okay, you're going to sign on with us, and here's what's going to happen over the next 3 or 4 months, which essentially was putting together the story of your business, and which meant gathering a lot more information than I already had. I'd already given them some, but really gathering much more information together so they could put together the book or whatever on NetSearch that eventually we'd be using to as a sales aid, and so that was basically fell on me. It became a lot of work for me to do because I made the decision at this point that I really didn't feel comfortable incorporating anybody else into the knowledge of what was going on. It wasn't until we got to the point where we had put it out there to a bunch of different potential suitors, had really got, I guess, some NDAs back, if I'm recalling right, kind of a one-sheet thing of here's people that were interested in buying your business, and they would fill out a one-sheeter to say, here's essentially what the terms would be in general, the range of what they'd be willing to pay, et cetera. Right. And then you start to set up interviews with those businesses. So at that point, that's when I said, okay, I need to bring in my director of operations into this because she's going to, first of all, my goal was to completely move on from the business after I sold it. So I wanted the potential buyers to see some of at least the other main person who was there, and eventually the entire leadership team. But I would start with Kate, my director of operations, and I felt it was important to expose her as to what was going on, and also have her be able to meet with the potential buyer. I'll digress for a minute.
Yes,
Kate was back then, in her early, she's probably 30, 31 years old. She had come to us right out of college as an entry-level in an entry-level position, and basically had grown in the business. And I went to her one day and I said, you know what, I want you to be the head of my project management team. And she wasn't sure that she could do it. And I said, no, you can do this. I know that you can do this. I've seen what you can do. And then a couple years later, maybe 2.5 or so years later, I went to her and I said, it's time for you to move on to another position. And that is, I need you to be the director of operations. I said,
Wow.
we're going to stair step this. We're going to move you. We're going to put you more in a management role for 6 months and let you get into this, and then we're going to have you manage the whole thing. And again, she wasn't sure that she could do it, but I knew she could. And so now to fast forward, now I'm going to her and telling her after she's 2 years on that job, and I'm saying, Kate, I'm moving on, and I'm not going to be here, and we'll see what happens, but most likely you're going to be the person that's going to be in charge of the whole thing.
Right.
And
wow.
so I think that took her back a little bit. She had no idea that this was going on.
Mm-hmm.
And she knew the numbers because I was very transparent with her and the rest of the leadership team as to what was going on with our business. And I think it took her a little bit to get used to that, but then she realized what a good opportunity there was, and there was going to be for her. And so she was on board.
Great. Yeah. Yeah. And so as you are approaching those, like you said, the management meetings and the final LOIs, what was your primary focus, as you were evaluating the buyers? What were you primarily focused on trying to find? And then ultimately, what did you end up finding, and did it, meet that goal?
Patrick and Steve let me know that there was several different camps of potential suitors. There were people that were in the digital marketing industry that might be looking to grow their business and add that on.
Mm-hmm.
Another big camp was private equity firms that were looking to invest in other businesses. Maybe they had some experience with digital marketing,
mm-hmm.
but maybe not. And again, they were looking for ways to invest their money. I guess those were the two main camps. There might have been a third, but so as we were settled on the 6 or so people that we had asked for LOIs from, they were definitely within those two camps.
Okay.
And one of them was probably our biggest competitor in the digital marketing industry,
mm-hmm.
and had a very, very strong offer. But we just felt like that the way that they ran their business was totally different than NetSearch. And,
right.
And so that kind of presented a challenge in that it's a business that was that certainly knew our industry. They put together probably the most profitable or package, the package with that was going to be the most advantageous to me.
Mm-hmm.
But also I felt like looking into a crystal ball, what was going to happen is NetSearch was going to be absorbed into that, and it was going to go away, which that so much didn't bother me as the fact that I just felt like our approaches to digital marketing, we talked about simplifying digital marketing, focusing on leads and being transparent. They really did not have that approach with their customers, at least from an outsider looking in. And so that was tough to try to look at that thing, the financial side on one side versus the rest of the other side of the coin, the way
mm-hmm.
that they ran their business. And I'm not saying they ran it badly. They were tremendously successful and much larger than us, and had a pile of money. We're going out and buying other businesses to get larger, but just a little bit of a different approach. Really, it kind of came down to the interviews that we had with these various suitors.
Yeah.
And it became apparent after the interview process of meeting with the 6 people that there were probably 3 of them that were the strongest.
Mm-hmm.
And one of those was the digital marketing company, that we competed with. But there was another company that was a private equity firm that had bought another digital marketing company about 6 or 8 months prior to us.
Okay.
And we're looking to, in the franchise industry, and we're looking to expand more in the franchise area of digital marketing by acquiring another firm. And so it became apparent to me that these guys were going to be probably the best fit overall. And the numbers were close, but not quite as good, at least at that point, with maybe the other offer that I had. But I felt the best about moving forward with them. And so then we're at the point where we saw, oh, I know what it is. So we went to we're going to throw it out for a final auction among these people. And then Patrick, I think, came up with the idea and said, if you're really comfortable with this group here, let's let them make a preemptive bid.
Right.
And,
okay.
And so we talked about that was maybe a possibility if we found somebody that we thought was a good fit. But we dug a little bit deeper into the pros and the cons of that. And long story short is we gave them the opportunity to do a preemptive bid, and we liked what they came back with, and so we went with them.
Great. Okay.
So then I remember saying to Steve and Patrick, wow, we're going to close in 90 days. I don't understand why it's going to take so long. This is not that complicated of a business. I've already given you guys a tremendous amount of information. How is this going to take so long?
Right.
And they said, just wait. And they had tried to prepare me for what was going to happen after we had a signed letter of intent and we're focusing on a date. But wow, I never realized what was ahead of me, which was a tremendous grind of providing tons and tons of financial and accounting information and interviews with our people. I get it. This was, a relatively big purchase, for them. And it took every bit of 90 days. In fact, I think it ended up being about 120 days. So it was at times grueling because, you're, again, you can't keep your eye off of, running your business and so forth. During this process here, I had let my leadership team in on what was going on. But probably it was only about 30 days or so before closing that I let the rest of my leadership team. So it was pretty much Kate and I for the 60-ish plus days where we were both working to provide these people with all the information. And that was a grind.
Yeah. Yes, I can imagine. Yeah, and that like you said, you can understand because it's a big investment on their side of the table, and so yeah, I mean that's as you completed that transaction, and as we're kind of looking forward, where do you find your purpose? Was that a challenge for you when you left your business of losing that sense of identity, losing that sense of purpose, and how do you overcome that kind of post exit?
Yeah, so you close, and at least in my case, my financial goals were met. I had enough money to not have to work again.
Right.
And but work was something that I really had filled up a big part of my life. I mean, I was usually the first person to get there and the last person to leave, kind of old school, and was very hands-on with the business. I mean, although I had the leadership team, I always felt like it was real important for them to see me very involved with the business and be really involved with the business. So now all of a sudden that's gone, and you're looking at how you're going to fill that void. I'd started playing golf, so I could certainly afford to spend a lot more time, and needed to spend a lot more time playing golf.
Don't we all? Yes.
Yeah. And but that's only going to take you so far. And I thought about getting involved with some charities. I thought about getting involved with some other businesses, although I had a non-compete, so I have to be careful with that. And one thing I hadn't done a lot of was travel. And so you hear people say, well, gee, you're going to fill your time up with travel and grandkids and golf or whatever maybe sport you're interested in or so forth, and you're going to give back, and you're going to think that's going to be enough. It's now I work for our company for about 5 or 6 months after the sale.
Okay. Yeah.
And then they said, listen, we're going to need you 3 to 6 months. So it's probably about 5 months. They said, we don't need you anymore.
Right.
So then I'm off of that. And I was on the board of the company. So that took a little, of the new larger company.
Okay.
And I also retained some small piece of ownership in the bigger company. So that's kind of a nest egg or an investment that I made. And I think it's going to pay off. It doesn't pay off, and that's one of the things that Steve and Patrick said. Listen, you if you're going to do this, you need to make sure. I mean, hopefully it's going to pay off and pay off big for you, but just pretend it's not there.
Right.
And and that was good advice. So we'll see. That maybe probably will be another payday, but that's kind of a mystery thing down the road. So then I started spending time with grandkids and traveling, and the next thing I know, now a year and a half has passed, and I haven't been bored at all.
Yeah, that's great to hear.
So.
That's really great to hear. So as you reflect back on this whole journey from the initial idea to where you are today, what are the one or two best pieces of advice that you can give to the generation that's going through it now as you look back?
So I'm still a big believer in those words of Zig Ziglar. If you help enough other people get what they want out of life, you'll get everything that you want out of life. And that's not only customers, but it's also your business family as well. And so I think that's key for any business owner, is to keep that in mind. The other things I would say is, you got to know your numbers. You have to understand from a business standpoint where you are, where you can make money, where you can lose money, and understand how that eventually is going to work into the valuation of your business. I'm amazed when I talk to some business owners, and I kind of get it, but as a business owner, sometimes you're so much in the weeds that you don't have time to step back and kind of look at 5 or 10 years down the road to say, okay, where do I want to be with this thing all ends up, and is the path that I'm on gonna get me there?
Right.
And I did a little bit of that. I wish I had done maybe some more of it, and I think I could have prepared the business a little bit more from a financial standpoint. Example of this is I never really invested much in having a top-notch accountant. I mean,
Okay.
I had an accountant, and they were okay, and they did the job as far as getting the numbers together and getting the taxes done and so forth. But I think I really could have benefited from somebody who gave me some more financial advice and helped me kind of with some forward thinking along the road.
Great. Yeah. That's great advice, and I definitely enjoyed this. This is a great conversation. Thank you for coming out, and it's a great story, and excited to hear that things are going well for you. So thank you.
Transact Capital presents Banking on Your Business with Jacob Robertson.